Can the interpreters hear us here in the chambers? Thank you.
The March 12, 2024 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnhart. Ms. Barnhart is present. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy is present. Mr. Baines. Mr. Baines is present. Mr. Blankley. Mr. Blankley is present. Ms. Bonnick. Ms. Bonnick is present. Mr. Brew. Mr. Brew is present. Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess is present. Mr. Chardy. Mr. Chardy is present. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby is present. Mr. Cruz.
Present.
Mr. Cruz is present. Ms. Lavecchia Hoffman. Ms. Lavecchia Hoffman is present. Mrs. DeFlorio. Mr. Dondorfer. Mr. Dondorfer is present. Mr. Frazier. Mr. Frazier is present. Ms. Hasman. Ms. Hasman is present. Ms. Hughes Smith. Ms. Hughes Smith is present. Mr. Johns. Mr. Johns is present. Mr. Keller. Mr. Keller is present. Mr. Long. Mr. Long is present. Mr. Mafucci. Mr. Mafucci is present. Mr. McCabe. Mr. McCabe is present. Ms. McIntyre. Ms. McIntyre is present. Mr. Milne. Mr. Milne is present. Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris is present. President Rahman.
Here.
President Rahman is present. Mr. Sinclair. Sinclair is present. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith is present. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons is present. Mr. Udelson. Mr. Udelson is present.
Please join me in a moment of silent prayer. Please stand as Legislator Frazier will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll now move to approval of journal. Your copies of the Day 3, February 13th, 2024 are now available through Novus Agenda. Without exception, this journal will stand approved as submitted. Legislators, the referrals submitted to the legislature for the next committee cycle are available on Novus Agenda as well as online. Before we get into proclamations, I want to recognize that March is Women's History Month, which was established 37 years ago to the day on March 12, 1987, after the National Women's History Project petitioned the United States Congress. This month-long celebration honors the many accomplishments and contributions of women and uplifts the voice of all women. Women's History Month promotes equity on many fronts, including bridging the pay gap, individual rights, and eliminating gender-based prejudices. This month includes the commemoration of International Women's Day, which is celebrated on March 8th and recognized around the world. While we highlight the contributions of women to history and society throughout this month, every day is a Women's Day. All right. All right. There are several proclamations scheduled this evening. Mr. Clerk.
Would members of the Pirate Toy Fund please come forward? Also, legislators Robert J. Colby, Paul Dondorfer, County Executive Adam J. Bello, and President Eversha Roman.
The Monroe County Legislature recognizes Pirate Toy Fund.
Whereas it is the sense of this legislature to honor and celebrate the events that make Monroe County a better place to live. And whereas, attendant to such concern, these legislators are justly proud to honor the Pirate Toy Fund, Otto Harnischviger, Executive Director, their staff, and their Board of Directors. And whereas, the Pirate Toy Fund was established in 1995 by local children's entertainer Gary the Happy Pirate, along with Dave and Lori Simonetti. And whereas, the Pirate Toy Fund founders were inspired by the extraordinary life of Dave and Lori's daughter, Christy Simonetti. And whereas, the Pirate Toy Fund is the only nonprofit organization in the country dedicated to distributing new toys year-round to children in need. They provide toys to children throughout the greater Rochester region. And whereas the Pirate Toy Fund has distributed over 500,000 toys since their founding in 1995. And whereas on January 24th, 2024, a ribbon cutting ceremony was held to unveil their new headquarters located at 46 Turner Road in the town of Ogden. And whereas every day of the year, the team behind the Pirate Toy Fund inspires our residents to give back, donate, and most importantly, bring joy to thousands of children in our community. Now, therefore, let it be known that we, Adam J. Bello, Monroe County Executive, Eversha Roman, President, Robert Colby, Legislator, District 20, Paul Dondorfer, Legislator, District 9, do hereby honor the Pirate Toy Fund, Otto Harnischviger, Executive Director, the staff, and Board of Directors on this 12th day of March, 2024.
Listen, I can't take credit for this. I'm just the pretty face of the organization. And okay, apparently you don't agree with me. But if it wasn't for Dave, Lori, and Gary the Happy Pirate having this vision, we wouldn't be. But the best part is this community. The community is such a caring community. And we got this building and they're here. And I know he doesn't like this, but I'm sorry, Adam Schneider and his wife, Callie, please, they donated that building to the Pirate Toy Fund so we can do what we do. And yeah, I'll tell you, we were looking to buy the building from him. And then someday I asked him why he just wanted to give it to him. And he told me God told him to do it. So he did it. But our first year, when they started back in 1995, we gave out approximately 400 toys. Last year, we gave out 36,000 toys free of charge because of this caring community and people coming out of the woodwork to help us. So thank you so much for this. It means a lot to us. And the board of directors, they're all a working board. They set up, they tear it down, all our events and stuff. So again, the biggest element that we have, oh, I got to just talk, our toy giveaway. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. In December, we partner with the county and we have a lot of programs with Monroe County. But we do this toy giveaway where the kids that are in poverty in Monroe County get a letter, invitation only. And last year we sent out about 4,500 invitations. About 4,000 kids showed up to the Blue Cross Arena, who gives us the venue for free. And it's like a winter wonderland. We have games and we have characters in costume. We have Santa, we have snacks, and they get to pick out any toy they want, any stuffed animal. And I urge you guys to come this year. We'll send it out to the ledge. It's so much fun to see the faces. Adam Bello's been there several years with us, helping us do what we do. It's a touching time to see these kids and their reaction for what we do. So thank you for helping us do what we do. And thank you for this. It means a lot to us. Appreciate it.
DeMayor, Yarmila Hassler, Leslie Food, and Andrea Lista, please come forward. Also, Majority Leader Michael Udelson, Republican Leader Steve Brew, County Executive Adam J. Bello, and President Eversha Roman.
Whereas dating back to the founding of Rochester, where our county's largest city received its nickname of Flower City, Monroe County has been home to a rich and thriving agricultural history. Today, agriculture continues to play a large role in the fabric of our community. And whereas currently there are over 33,000 farms and 6,900,000 acres of operated farmland in New York State, March signifies a national celebration of the importance of food and agriculture in the United States, as it is the source of products consumed and used daily. This month, we recognize and celebrate the diversity and abundance provided by New York's farms in our growing food and agricultural sector, and the contributions of Monroe County's family farmers. And whereas the agricultural industry in New York State contributes more than 5.7 billion in agricultural sales to the New York economy each year. Farmland occupies nearly 1/4 of New York State's land, providing access to fresh, locally sourced food, preserving open space, and enhancing community quality of life. And whereas preserving and growing our local agricultural community is important to the vibrancy of our local community and economy. Commemorating Agricultural Month will build awareness of the benefits of the agricultural industry in Monroe County and encourage young people to consider agriculture as a career. And whereas Monroe County urges its residents to join us in recognizing the importance of our food and agricultural industry, to thank a farmer for providing the food we eat and prepare meals using a variety of New York State produced products. We must never forget the hard work and dedication of all of our farms nationwide. Now, therefore, we, Adam J. Bello, County Executive, Iversha Roman, President, Michael Udelson, Majority Leader, and Steve Brew, Republican Leader, on behalf of the entire Monroe County Legislature, do hereby proclaim the month of March to be National Agriculture Month in Monroe County.
Thank you so much. Obviously I'm not going to repeat everything that was in the proclamation because it was pretty complete. And yeah, agriculture, I mean, it's where our food comes from, nutrition. It's about taking care of our natural resources. It's about helping our young people, our kids, understand the value of agriculture and pursue agricultural careers. It's about all of that. And Monroe County Farms produce a lot for our county, and all of that as well as economic activity. So we're really thankful for all of your support. It's because of this body that we are able to have regional agriculture team specialists in about $2.15 million worth of expertise out in the field, providing research-based support to our farmers. And so your support enables us to do that. And it's also your support that enables us to have a team here that is able to go out and be boots in the ground for our farmers, as well as in the schools, teaching our kids all about agriculture and helping them understand the value for the food that's on the table, but also for their futures. I want to especially thank our legislators and Executive Bello, President Roman, Legislator Brew, Legislator Udelson, and all of you who have supported CCE Monroe and the Farm Bureau in this effort. Unfortunately, Marilyn DeMeyer wasn't able to be here. She had a change in her work schedule. So she did want to express her gratitude and thank you very much for the support of the Monroe County Farm Bureau. We work very closely with the Farm Bureau and we appreciate their partnership. So again, thank you. I can't express enough how grateful we are for all of your support, and thank you for making sure that agriculture is alive and well in Monroe County.
I will now read the reset the legislature to hold a series of public hearings. I now declare open the public hearing on resolution entitled enacting a local law authorizing the lease by negotiation with, I think we probably should wait for folks to come back. Okay. So I now declare open the public hearing on resolution entitled enacting a local law authorizing a lease by negotiation with Federal Express Corporation for real property at the Greater Rochester International Airport.
There are no speakers registered for this public hearing.
There being none, I declare this public hearing closed. I now declare open the public hearing on resolution entitled amending the airline airport use and lease agreements with American Airlines, Inc., Delta Airlines, Inc., Federal Express Corporation, JetBlue Airways Corporation, Southwest Airlines Corporation, and United Airlines, Inc. for space at the Frederick Douglass Greater International Airport.
There's no one registered for this public hearing this evening.
There being none, I declare this public hearing closed. The March 12th, 2024 meeting of the legislature is convened. There are no formal committee reports scheduled for this evening. We will now hold the public forum. We have several people registered to address the legislature. Mr. Clerk.
If you require assistance, a deputy is available to assist you in approaching the lectern. I will call 3 people forward at one time. Each speaker will have 2 minutes in which to address the legislature, and kindly conclude your remarks when the timer sounds and exit through the back of the chambers over here to this door on my right. Thank you for your cooperation. The first 3 speakers are Emily Good, Paul Frisella, and Kevin Lockhart.
Good evening. I'm speaking in support of banning the use of toxic synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides on Monroe County lands, but I'm also here in support of removing the Israeli flag from the county building. I'm a mental health counselor in Rochester. I was drawn to my field by way of ecopsychology, the study between planetary and personal well-being. We are interdependent with countless other species in the ecosystem, and our health, our physical, cognitive, and emotional health and well-being is improved when we spend time in green spaces and interact with and care for animals and for one another. Evidence even shows that more exposure to nature translates into more community cohesion and substantially lower crime rates. Being outside in the natural world is really good for us. What a predicament then to find toxic chemicals in so many of our natural spaces. Long-term exposure to pesticides has been linked to cancer in humans and animals. Knowing the impacts of losing ones we love to cancer, why would we not simply employ the precautionary principle and choose options that are clearly much safer? The chemicals found in these products have also been linked to asthma, Parkinson's disease, and a variety of mental disorders, including anxiety, depression, and ADHD. We have an opportunity to alleviate some suffering by decreasing this use. Why would we not do so? And I didn't even realize this was in honor of Farm and Farm Workers Month. Farm workers suffer disproportionately from Parkinson's disease and cancer related to these toxic chemicals. Our choice to poison the natural world, and in doing so poison ourselves, mirrors the epidemic of drug overdoses and suicide. We're poisoning ourselves. It's risky, self-harming behavior at a societal level, and it creates a pervasive sense of betrayal, alienation, fear, grief, and hopelessness. Please heed the pain of the living world and stop using toxic chemicals on county lands. Thank you.
Sidewalks in Rochester are hazardous to walk on. Bikes ride on sidewalks. Now, some bikers aggressive, and steps should be made to keep them off sidewalks and on the edge of the street where they belong. Sidewalks are also slippery due to ice and water, and steps should be made to stop that. Crime remains a serious problem in Rochester. I strongly think all weapons should be removed and confiscated, all of them. If a life could be saved due to this, it should be done. Also, the negative ideas in our community that encourage crime should be replaced with positive ideas that prevent crime. Judges should be tougher too. Here's one. Technology can give rise to problems. Many machines people use are addictive, like phones, and steps should be taken to overcome these addictions. We must take steps to stop being too dependent on technology. The human brain is all you need. Companies that promote these addictive machines should be firmly punished by the regulators. The plug should be pulled on artificial intelligence right now before it becomes too much of a hazard. Good day.
We have a county's clerk's office who is reporting 16 stolen checks, and there has been no investigation or any result of that. We live in a city where the commissioner and the mayor and the city council allow kids to ride around in stolen cars while hanging out the window with machine guns. We have government officials sitting on multiple seats of government at the same time who are also receiving public funds to their nonprofits. ARPA funding was meant to be distributed to the neighborhood of Rochester known as the Fatal Crescent. How can this be possible if the Crescent never elected a board of trustees to receive and manage the money? Therefore, the ARPA funds were distributed to private accounts and lost. This is a failure not just by the administration, but also by the voters who tolerate the corruption year after year. Everyone needs to wake up and see the writing on the wall. This is not about you. You alone cannot make change. This is about everyone together pushing as a team for the person next to you who, if we want to return the people to power, then the people need to become, we need people power and for people to step up. The government is corrupt by its very nature. The county commissioner, the administrators, legislators, and Chamber of Commerce are too busy kissing the governor's ass to give a rat's ass about any of us and our liberty. Was that too much? Sorry about that. The government is, wait, I implore you all to stand alongside me in this campaign for justice and peace. Inequality in our elections is a cancer eating away at the very fabric of our democracy. It's time we address the glaring disparities that plague our electoral system here in this county. Let's recharter the bylaws of the Rochester Encounter Corporation and begin enforcing term limits. Our government is not meant to be a revolving door of fraternities and sororities selecting who runs for office. When we talk about elections, we envision a fair process where every voice is heard, where every vote counts. The absence of local elected committees to receive funding reeks of injustice. Instead, funds are funneled to privately owned charities and private bank accounts, perpetuating a system where the privileged few benefit at the expense of the marginalized many. What is this today, if not modern day fascism? When government transforms into a private corporation, democracy withers and inequality thrives. Our neighborhoods in Rochester are suffering, deprived of basic liberties such as school districts and mutual governance. Thank you.
Our next three speakers are Jason Youngbluth, Sheila Driscoll, and Catherine Kaczynski.
Good evening. My name is Sheila Driscoll, and I'm here tonight representing a group called Rochester Women versus Parkinson's. You might be surprised to learn that Parkinson's is the fastest growing neurological condition in the world. It's an epidemic that receives limited attention, but leads to disability, isolation, long-term care costs, and stress to caregivers. What causes Parkinson's? There's a combination of environmental and genetic factors. Certain pesticides and insecticides are linked to Parkinson's. Also, they're linked to lung disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, and birth defects. Farmers, farm workers, and people living in rural communities have the greatest exposure and are at particular risk of developing Parkinson's. For instance, in rural parts of Nebraska, the rates of the disease are 2 to 4 times higher than in urban Omaha. So why are these pesticides still in use? Chemical companies have tremendous resources for lobbying the EPA and marketing their products to the public as safe. American homeowners use 70 million pounds of pesticides each year to maintain their lawns. Most homeowners are not aware of the risk that these products pose to their children or their pets. Parkinson's has been called a man-made disease. It is associated with pollution and industrialization. As a first step, the Rochester Women versus Parkinson's strongly endorses a public information campaign to promote healthy yards, organic foods, non-toxic pesticides, and fertilizers. Secondly, there's an urgent need for public policy at all levels, local, state, and national, to end dependency on toxic pesticides and replace them with green strategies. Thanks for your attention.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Kuzinski, and I am a member of Color Pittsford Green, and I'm also here to talk about pesticides. Specifically, I'd like to ask Monroe County to end the use of chemical pesticides on county-owned property and to fund an education campaign to encourage residents to stop using chemical pesticides on their private property. My husband and I grew up here, and after living away for 10 years, we chose to move back because we know this is a wonderful place to raise our 3 children. And 4 years later, that holds true for the most part. But every spring and summer since we've moved to Pittsford, I've been troubled by the number of yellow signs planted in front of the lawns of so many neighbors and houses along the walks I take with my children, indicating that the properties have been treated with chemical pesticides. When I looked into this further, I learned that some of the highest rates of pesticide use happen right here in Monroe County. This practice is detrimental to the health of people and animals in our community. These chemicals have been tied to Parkinson's disease in adults and ADHD in children, as well as cancers suffered by our pets. Pesticides contribute to the drastic decline in pollinator populations and the wildlife which depend on these insects for food. Not only are these chemicals harmful, they are unnecessary. Personally, we maintain our lawn through aeration and overseeding. We also lay down clover seed to fertilize naturally and crowd out other weeds. And these are only some of the alternatives to pesticides. So I think if we can examine our priorities, it's so easy to conclude that perfect lawn falls well below the health and well-being of the people in our community, our pets, and the pollinators that we depend on. So please consider ending chemical pesticide use in Monroe County. Thank you.
Our next 3 speakers are Beth Myers, Yvonne Hilton, and Natasha Rivera.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Myers, Beth Myers. I am here, as you might guess, to urge you to take down the flag of another country, which is on the outside of our public building, our county building right here. This country is all of ours. This county is all of ours. And my freedom as an American is taken away when something that I disagree with is posted outside in my name with my tax money. There's also the Ukrainian flag outside. I oppose that as well. The legislature has chosen to put up those 2 flags. But if the legislature is going to choose to put the flag of any country relating to Ukraine, similar to Ukraine, the flag should be the flag of Palestine, not the flag of Israel. The comparison with Ukraine and Palestine is clear. Two small entities being occupied by a larger, powerful country using bombs to destroy and to kill. You know that 30,000 people have been killed in Gaza. Mosques have been destroyed. The universities have all been destroyed. And that's being done in my name and your name with our taxes. It's wrong. Aside from that, it's wrong to have the flag of any country on our public building. And you know that. So my point here is to ask you to find the courage to do the right thing, to protect our democracy, to not have any flags of any other countries for any other reason outside of our public buildings. It's morally wrong, it weakens our democracy, and we need to stand strong, especially now, to preserve our country.
My name is Yvonne Hilton, and I represent the Rochester Parkinson Network. I'm here reaching out humbly to request your support in recognizing World Parkinson's Day, slated for April 11th, 2024. As a constituent deeply invested in raising awareness about Parkinson's disease in and around the greater Rochester area, I bring to your attention the critical need to address the fastest growing neurological condition globally. Parkinson's disease is a progressive and debilitating neurological disorder affecting millions of people worldwide. Despite significant advancements in treatment, there is still no known cure for the disease. Those living with Parkinson's must navigate its ongoing insidious consequences to both their physical and emotional well-being. Parkinson's is a whole body disease. It is more than just a motor disorder affecting movement. In fact, there are over 40 potential symptoms that can impact a person's quality of life, including issues with mood, sleep, pain, gut health, and cognition. While tremors and falls and other motor symptoms are well known, many other symptoms, such as depression and loss of speech, can be invisible to others, making those with the disease even more isolated. Parkinson's disease stands as a formidable challenge, rapidly escalating in prevalence and impacting individuals and families worldwide. Its exponential growth underscores the urgent need for heightened awareness, research, and support services. Recognizing World Parkinson's Day provides an opportunity to shine a spotlight on this pressing issue and rally support for those living with Parkinson's disease. By issuing a proclamation, we can elevate public consciousness, advocate for increased research funding, and demonstrate solidarity with the Parkinson community, estimated conservatively at around 4,000 persons in the Rochester area alone. I respectfully urge you to consider issuing a proclamation. It would not only honor the resilience of individuals with Parkinson's, but also affirm our commitment to advancing the research. Thank you for your time.
Our next three speakers are Julie Galfan, Brandon Granby, and Elizabeth Henderson.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Henderson, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak on an issue that is close to my heart and really important to the health of this community. I urge you to pass legislation that directs the county land and building managers to use preventive measures, integrated crop and pest management, so that we will no longer be exposed to toxic residues on public buildings and lands in Monroe County. I'm an organic farmer, and I've been feeding hundreds of people in the Rochester area since 1988. It is totally possible to care for land without using synthetic fertilizer, toxic pesticides, and herbicides. Several local municipalities have already stopped using herbicides and pesticides. The city of Rochester, under the Environmental Commissioner Richard Perrin, Brighton, Pittsford. So there is local experience to guide other towns. I'm a member of NOFA, the Northeast Organic Farming Association, and we provide free technical assistance on organic farming and gardening. And we have an online program for land care professionals. So if there's need for technical assistance, we'd be happy to provide it for the people who work for the county. As a farmer and gardener, I take special care to build the health of the soil, a win-win approach that also mitigates climate change by stocking carbon in the soil. Synthetic fertilizers and toxic materials reduce the soil's power to stock carbon. While it is hard to pin down exactly which exposure to toxics causes cancer or Parkinson's in an individual, a friend of mine who worked for the Rochester Parks Department, where he used glyphosate, nearly died last year from cancer. Please prevent future health risks to our county's workers and to all of us who enjoy our area's wonderful parks. Thank you.
Hi, hold on a sec. I come bearing gifts, so I'm pulling a few of them out. And I have nothing written, so I hope I don't stammer over trying to get this all out. So I have like 3 things to talk about, and they all have to do with Free Palestine. And the first thing is, I know that we've had that the Israeli flag out front has been removed 3 times already. And I noticed yesterday it was half-staffed. Today, someone really put that on tight because you don't want to lose it. Well, I think that there are people who do want to lose it and would like to see it. So I, however, am making another suggestion, and the suggestion, part of it's in my bag, and I'm going to leave it with you guys. My suggestion, here's a photo that you guys can't see, but there's one for each of the legislators. We add another flag. We figure out which flag should come down. Maybe it's one of the American flags. Maybe it's the Monroe County flag. Don't take down the Native American flag, which I actually did in this photo. This photo is a photoshopping of what it would be like if we added a Palestinian flag out there. So perhaps I am leaving you a Palestinian flag, and I will leave it with the clerk, because if you want to put that one up, I'm donating it. And so why? Because, as other people have said, a lot more people have died in Palestine than in Israel. How many thousands and thousands and thousands of people have to die before they earn their own flag hanging outside there? If we're going to mourn, let's mourn, and let's mourn those people too. So that's my first thing. And I'm going to run out of time. So the other thing is, I have buttons here. I was going to give one to every person here, every legislator here. These are buttons that I make. Every one of them has a name on it, and it's the name of a child or a journalist or an artist who has died in Palestine. And I will quit this very soon. And each one of those comes with a story telling you about their lives and who else died with them. And to take one of these buttons and to wear them is to share their stories. And I will stop in 1 second. And so I am here to offer those to you guys. I'm not leaving them with you because I'm afraid you won't wear them. Anybody want to wear them? Please come to me. The stories are here. The buttons are here. I'd love for you to share the word.
Hello, I'm Brandon Granby. I'm a resident here in Rochester, and I'm going to just make this short and sweet. Just like in many other community members, we would like to see the Israeli flag removed. And in fact, I would also like to see a Palestinian flag put up instead, due to the genocide that Israel is committing against Gaza. every single day, Gaza does not rest because of the constant bombings that are similar to World War II air bombings on Britain. Thank you.
Our next three speakers are Ellen Henry, Talia Delphi, and Kim Nelson.
So I am Ellen Henry, a longtime resident of Pittsford, Parenton, and a member of Color Pittsford Green. And I need to initially thank you for the ongoing work to finalize a climate action plan for the county. It's such an important process, and it has highlighted just how much we need to do in all sectors to ensure that carbon emission reduction goals are met. But today I'm focusing on one action that to me seems to be relatively low-hanging fruit, namely enabling local composting of food waste. Clearly, careful planning is needed to ensure efficiency and equity. But ultimately, Mother Nature does the work, and additional infrastructure needs are comparatively minimal. And you all know the obvious benefits. So living in Pittsford, I know of the ongoing so-called food scraps recycling pilot program. I compost at home, so I don't participate. But many folks I've talked to have been very disappointed to learn that those food scraps they collect are being trucked out of the county and to a anaerobic biodigester to produce methane, and which is burned to produce electricity. I have a feeling that many have stopped participating when they learned that fact. Furthermore, I don't know of any benefit that's coming back to the town from this arrangement, at least from the pilot, at the pilot level. So obviously this is highly preferable to landfilling food waste and other organics, and maybe the best option for factory level factory scale farms that are dealing with manure. But it certainly is not optimal for our food scrap processing. So we continue to ask that multiple composting facilities be built within the county. There's widespread support among residents who recognize the value of composting and are willing to do the right thing if they can. And that valuable end product can be used right here to improve our soil health. So thank you.
Talia Delphi, the Israeli flag outside must come down. We call ourselves free, but the illusion of freedom is breaking down, along with the illusion of law and order amid this historic nightmare. No human being possessing a brain and a heart could possibly view this massacre as two-sided. After 5 months of unrelenting genocide, even the unstoppable US propaganda machine falters, and the president's PR minions are reduced to releasing fabricated and scripted, quote, leaked stories to the press in a feeble attempt to convince the public that our current president isn't a literal war criminal. This absurd political theater insults our intelligence and underestimates our power. Our elected officials, who dare to call themselves public servants, have served themselves and their agenda of genocidal imperial conquest instead of their people for far too long. The Israeli flag was not raised here to display the consensual and collective position of the people of Monroe County. It was raised to tell us what we must think, feel, and believe about the world's ruling class conducting a genocide in our names with our tax dollars. Punishments for protesters intensify as police presence and violence increases and police states are pursued nationwide. People lose their jobs over displays of support for Palestine. Meanwhile, outright lies about Hamas's conduct are published in the New York Times. This is fascism. We have flooded the streets and government buildings of Rochester. We have screamed, cried, and begged at councils just like these. You know the position of your constituents and have made it abundantly clear that you do not care. In no way can you call this abusive, exploitative system of merciless brutality carried out expressly against the behest of the people a democracy. I want you to know fully and unequivocally that the people of Rochester resent your inaction, your silence, and your attempt to force us to tolerate this flag, representing Zionism and not Judaism, which has become nothing but a symbol of imperialist violence, oppression, racism, and the unbridled, unjust slaughter of innocent human beings.
Coming on high. America's flag is supposed to stand for liberty and justice for all. We all just said so, or most of us. Those values, though, fly in the face of the occupier, Israel, who believes their country can only exist by illegal occupation, high-tech surveillance, and brutal military control. Polls show that the majority of people in New York do not support Israel in this genocide. The majority of Americans across the country support ceasefire. In fact, the world has condemned Israel as it persists in its depraved litany of war crimes, with the most recent addition of forced starvation. The fact is, Israel is an apartheid state. It is America's Frankenstein, a rogue monster that kills children slowly, forcing mothers to helplessly listen to the cries of their children lying beneath the rubble for days until they finally fall silent. It also kills children quickly, blowing them into literal pieces. Finally, it kills even the hope of children, as an Israeli t-shirt depicts, targeting pregnant women. Shoot one, kill two. The Israel flag is a flag of shame. Defending American interests is a euphemism for the outsized influence of Israeli interests in American politics and throughout our economy. It is an excuse to fund the industry of military surveillance and missile defense technology. Legislators, the Israeli lobby funds candidates, and we see the money trail. The lobby quells criticism of Israel under the guise of anti-Semitism accusations. Our complicity is not abstract, unfortunately. L3 Harris, located just across town, is a cog in the killing machine of this genocide. Take down the Israel flag.
Our next three speakers are John Brown, Chris Eads, and Greg Vindongen.
Hello. If you look around the room, I think there might be 100 people in this room tonight right now. I'm not going to attempt to even match the eloquence of the last two speakers. I do want a few quotes read into the record, because the genocide that we are witnessing in real time unfolding rapidly as I speak, as you sit here and listen. This has always been the plan. This is from Giora Eland, a former head of the National Security Council of Israel. Israel needs to create, this was said this past year, the war is unfolding, but now genocide unfolding. Israel needs to create a humanitarian crisis in Gaza, compelling hundreds of thousands to seek refuge in Egypt or the Gulf. As a result, Gaza will become a place where no human being can exist. And I say this as a means rather than an end. And no human being obviously can exist without water, food, medical care. That's what's been happening at an accelerated pace. Again, as we speak, as I sit here, over 30,000 killed, not died, killed. Too many news reports say 30,000 Palestinians have died. No, they've been murdered. Murdered in the beds. Our baby and children have been sleeping with their mothers. Yes, on International Women's Day and every day before and after that. 4.5%. I'm going to round that up to 5% because we don't know how many thousands of people are dead and buried in the rubble and unaccounted for yet. So it's about 5% of the population of Gaza. If we Transpose that to the US, that would be 12%. That's roughly 5 out of 100 people here. So pick 5 people in this room you chose to say goodbye to. Take down that stinking flag.
You probably know about the Michigan effort, where over 100,000 people voted uncommitted in the Democratic primary to show how many votes Biden will lose over his support for the ongoing massacre in Gaza. In an interview, a spokesman for the effort said that not only would they not vote for Biden, they would vote for Trump to make sure Biden loses. When I heard that, I thought, you know, Trump's not really a friend of the Muslims. And the reporter must have had the same thought because he asked about it. The response from the spokesperson was, Trump put in place a travel ban. Biden is sending money and weapons to a country that has murdered 40,000 of our people. That's a pretty big deal. Israel lost 1,100 people and so far has killed over 40,000 Palestinians in return, most of them civilians. When does it stop? Can they kill 11 million people in exchange for 1,100? There has to be a limit. Otherwise, what we're saying is that Palestinian lives have no value. We're saying that human life has no value. The thousands of children who have been killed are not responsible for the social and political situation that surrounds them. They are simply in the path of the bombs and bullets that killed them. So I now understand what hanging this flag means. It does not mean simply that we sympathize with the suffering of Israel. It also means that we don't care about the suffering of the Palestinians. If you live in Monroe County and you're of Muslim or Arab descent and you see that flag hanging, what it means to you is that the government of Monroe County considers the lives of some of its residents to be less valuable than others. That may not be your opinion, but that's what the flag means to them. And that's why we should take it down. It doesn't mean you don't like Israel. It just means that Monroe County is a diverse county with many different people, and the government of Monroe County represents all of its residents and not just some of them. Thank you for listening and have a good evening.
You spoke about International Women's Day at the start of this meeting, but made no mention of the 500,000 women who have been forcibly displaced from their homes in the last 5 months alone. On top of this, you show visible support for the state of Israel, proudly displaying their flag as it commits a genocide on a population that has been held in an open-air prison for decades, all done with weapons paid for by our tax dollars. Flying the flag of Israel as it accelerates the forcible displacement of Palestinians from lands they've lived on for generations is an endorsement of Israel's crimes. Flying the flag of a country that has held over 10,000 children in arbitrary military detention in the last 20 years is an endorsement of Israel's crimes. Given that the U.S. has propped up the Israeli project with weapons shipments for decades, something the U.S. population doesn't currently approve of, the legislature should stand with the average American who understands this isn't a war but a genocide. If you support liberty and justice, then stand with the people of Palestine.
Our next speakers are Marcus Williams, Jennifer Sherilyn, Jason Youngluth, and Natasha Rivera.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Marcus C. Williams, not Marcus Williams. That's somebody else. All right. And I'd like to ask and request humbly that you guys, as our county ledge, actually cover all of the costs for anybody that's applying for a pistol permit in Monroe County. We have our Second Amendment rights, and they are being stripped from us, law-abiding citizens. The criminals can get guns anywhere, literally. And if you guys come from neighborhoods like I come from, many of you do, okay? You know that. This is not new news. We deserve to be able to protect ourselves, our property, our family, our children, because we know that the response times are ridiculous. Police sometimes don't even come because they're spread too thin. We need over 100 new officers in the city, and the sheriff can't help supplement it because they don't have enough people for the whole county. This is a real serious issue, and this is something that is doable, and we can do it. So I'd encourage you to actually cover the fees for anybody that's applying for their pistol permit in Monroe County, and let the people in Monroe County know that that is something that you're going to do. I'd also like for you guys to look into actually doing something about producing energy here in Monroe County locally, focusing on small modular nuclear reactors, because if everybody wants to go to this energy crazy future, we're going to have to produce more energy because we just don't have the resources. Okay, so these are very tangible things that we can actually do and implement. And lastly, before I go, I'd like to remind you all that we are all here Americans, and we've got people that would prefer to parade around with flags for foreign interests instead of American flags, while telling us to take down certain flags from our buildings. While I do not support any other flags aside from the American flag being flown in America, the point of the matter is that other people requesting to remove those flags hate and detest America and fly around foreign flags. Now, that just doesn't make any sense to me. We've cajoled these people, and we've allowed them to increase this level of security that we have in this very building because of their misbehaving, not being done. And then nobody is doing or saying anything about it, and they need to be challenged, period. Thank you.
My name is Jennifer Sherellen, and this is my song I co-wrote with Mike Baker called Ceasefire Now.
Peace in Palestine. Stop the suffering, the killing of innocent life. We are crying, hear our call. Ceasefire now, ceasefire now. As the Gaza Strip is laid waste, trauma and fear presiding, both sides of the barricades, genocidal violence, starvation in the wake, buried in the rubble, waiting for aid.
Sorry.
Freedom's calling, peace in Palestine. Stop the suffering, the killing of innocent life. We are crying, hear our call. Ceasefire now, ceasefire now. What messed up policies, destroying our humanity. We're giving up our freedom, when lies in everything. Oh.
You.
This concludes the public forum.
At this time, we will recess the March 12th, 2024 meeting of Legislature. The Rochester District, H. Highlight Ogden Sewer District, Eradicate Bay, South Central Pure Waters District, and Northwest Quadrant Pure Waters District of the Pure Waters Administration Board. Mr. Clerk, please note the attendance and read the first item on the agenda.
P-Web agenda item number 1, referral 24-0057. Authorizing alteration of Rochester Pure Waters District. Sewer assets by New York State Department of Transportation during New York Route 104 from Lake Avenue to Culver Road project in the city of Rochester.
Moved by Legislator Hugh Smith, seconded by Legislator Mafucci. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
P-Web agenda item number 2, referral 24-0059, authorizing an increase in improvement of facilities in the Rochester Pure Waters District, Frank E. Van Laer wastewater treatment plant electrical system improvement.
Moved by legislator Hugh Smith, seconded by legislator Mufucci. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. We will now recess the Rochester Pure Waters District, Gates Chili, Ogden Sewer District, Arundequoit Bay, South Central Pure Waters District, and the Northwest Quadrant Pure Waters District, and adjourn the Pure Waters Administrative Board. The March 12th, 2024 meeting of the legislature is convened. We will now proceed with consideration of local laws. Will the clerk please read the first item on the agenda?
Item number one, referral 24-0005.LL, providing that local law entitled amending local law number 7 of 2020, entitled enacting a local law authorizing a lease by negotiation with Federal Express Corporation for real property at the Greater Rochester International Airport, be lifted from the table.
Moved by legislator Barnhart, seconded by legislator Hugh Smith. This is to lift from the table. All in favor? Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number two, referral 24-0005.LL, providing that local law entitled amending local law number 7 of 2020, entitled enacting a local law authorizing a lease by negotiation with Federal Express Corporation for real property at the Greater Rochester International Airport, be adopted.
Moved by legislator Barnhart, seconded by legislator Hugh Smith. Is there any discussion? Yes, legislator Hugh Smith.
In committee, this referral was described as not yet as it related to the multimodal freight initiative. I'm concerned about approving any expansion of airport activity without adequate assurance that we will conduct a public health study and enter into community benefit agreements with the impacted neighborhoods. The administration has rightly noted that if a larger freight initiative is pursued, additional studies are required. Fortunately, despite the passage of the National Environmental Policy Act in the 1970s, not all communities have equally benefited. Current research shows that even when adjusted for income, predominantly white communities experience only 11% of the pollution associated with their own consumption of energy, groceries, and household goods. That means the other 89% ends up in predominantly Black and brown communities. I firmly believe we can have economic growth that promotes the well-being of all, but not by following a business as usual approach. So without additional assurances, I will be voting no on tonight's referral. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Legislator Frazier.
Thank you. To the administration, I'm going to vote yes. However, I would like to see a current I'd like to see a current environmental study of the airport. I know there's wetlands in other areas, but as a legislator, I'd like to see that report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Roll call vote, yes. It looked like it's 3, but yes.
Roll call vote on the adoption. Mr. Udelson. Mr. Udelson votes yes. Mr. Brew. Mr. Brew votes yes. Ms. Barnhart. Ms. Barnhart votes yes. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy votes yes. Mr. Baines. Mr. Baines votes yes. Mr. Blankley. Mr. Blankley votes yes. Ms. Bonnick. Ms. Bonnick votes no. Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess votes yes. Mr. Chardy. Mr. Chardy votes yes. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby votes yes. Mr. Cruz.
Yes.
Mr. Cruz votes yes. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman votes no. Mrs. DeFlorio.
Yes.
Mrs. DeFlorio votes yes. Mr. Dondorfer. Mr. Dondorfer votes yes. Mr. Frazier. Mr. Frazier votes yes. Ms. Hasman. Ms. Hasman votes yes. Ms. Hughes Smith. Ms. Hughes Smith votes no. Mr. Johns. Mr. Johns votes yes. Mr. Keller. Mr. Keller votes yes. Mr. Long. Mr. Long votes yes. Mr. Mafucci. Mr. Mafucci votes yes. Mr. McCabe. Mr. McCabe votes yes. Ms. McIntyre. Ms. McIntyre votes yes. Mr. Milne. Mr. Milne votes yes. Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris votes yes. Mr. Sinclair. Mr. Sinclair votes yes. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith votes yes. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons votes no. President Roman.
Yes.
President Roman votes yes. 25-4. Local law passes. Item number 3, referral 24-0034.LL, providing that local law entitled amending the airline airport use and lease agreements with American Airlines, Delta Airlines, Federal Express Corporation, Southwest Airlines, and United Airlines for space at the Frederick Douglass Greater Rochester International Airport be lifted from the table.
Moved by legislator Barnhart, seconded by legislator Hughes Smith. This is to lift from the table. All in favor? Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 4, referral 24-0034.LL, providing that local law entitled amending the airline airport use and lease agreements with American Airlines, Delta Airlines, Federal Express Corporation, Southwest Airlines, and United Airlines for space at the Frederick Douglass Greater Rochester International Airport be adopted.
Moved by legislator Barnhart, seconded by legislator Hughes Smith. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 5, referral 24-0055.LL, enacting a local law amending Chapter 323 entitled Parks.
Moved by legislator Barnhart, seconded by legislator Baines. This is for introductory purposes only. Next item.
Item number 6, referral 24-0055.LL, providing that local law entitled amending Chapter 323 entitled Parks be tabled.
Moved by legislator Barnhart, seconded by legislator Baines. This is to table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item carries. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Item number 7, referral 24-0055.LL, fixing a public hearing on local law entitled amending Chapter 323 entitled Parks.
Moved by legislator Barnhart, seconded by legislator Baines. This is to set a public hearing. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. We will now proceed with the consideration of motions, resolutions, and notices. Will the clerk read the next item on the agenda? Yes, legislator.
And that the rest of the agenda be considered as one with the exception of items number 16, 17, 18, 40, and 42.
Do you have a second? All right. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Right, thank you, legislator Hasman. Those will be noted.
Yep, we got those.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We'll now move. Item number 16.
Item number 16, referral 24-0062, amending 2024-2029 capital improvement program to add a project entitled Airport Electrification and Carbon Emission Reduction Project at Frederick Douglass Greater Rochester International Airport and authorizing grant agreement with New York State for aid relating to the project.
Moved by legislator Hugh Smith, seconded by legislator Mufucci. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Call vote.
We can do roll call, yes.
Roll call vote. Mr. Udelson. Mr. Udelson votes yes. Mr. Brew. Mr. Brew votes yes. Ms. Barnhart. Ms. Barnhart votes yes. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy votes yes. Mr. Baines. Mr. Baines votes yes. Mr. Blankley. Mr. Blankley votes yes. Ms. Bonnick. Ms. Bonnick votes yes. Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess votes yes. Mr. Chardy. Mr. Chardy votes yes. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby votes no. Mr. Cruz.
Yes.
Cruz votes yes. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman votes yes. Mrs. DeFlorio.
Yes.
Mrs. DeFlorio votes yes. Mr. Dondorfer. Mr. Dondorfer votes yes. Mr. Frazier. Mr. Frazier votes yes. Ms. Hasman. Ms. Hasman votes yes. Ms. Hugh Smith. Ms. Hugh Smith votes yes. Mr. Johns. Johns votes yes. Mr. Keller. Mr. Keller votes yes. Mr. Long. Mr. Long votes yes. Mr. Mafucci. Mr. Mafucci votes yes. Mr. McCabe. Mr. McCabe votes no. Ms. McIntyre. Ms. McIntyre votes yes. Mr. Milne. Milne votes yes. Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris votes yes. Mr. Sinclair. Mr. Sinclair votes yes. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith votes yes. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons votes yes. President Roman.
Yes.
President Roman votes yes. 27-2, resolution passes. Item number 17, referral 24-0062.BR. Resolution authorizing the issuance of $1,600,000 bonds of the County of Monroe, New York, to finance the cost of the airport electrification and carbon emission reduction project at the Frederick Douglass Greater Rochester International Airport in and for said county at an estimated maximum cost of $1,600,000.
Moved by legislator Hugh Smith, second by legislator from Mufucci. Is there any discussion? Yes.
Thank them for expanding the access to electric vehicle charging stations at the airport. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
Roll call vote, please.
Roll call vote. Mr. Udelson. Mr. Udelson votes yes. Mr. Brew. Mr. Brew votes no. Ms. Barnhart. Ms. Barnhart votes yes. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy votes yes. Mr. Baines. Mr. Baines votes yes. Mr. Blankley. Mr. Blankley votes yes. Ms. Bonnick. Ms. Bonnick votes yes. Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess votes yes. Mr. Chardy. Mr. Chardy votes yes. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby votes no. Mr. Cruz.
Yes.
Mr. Cruz votes yes. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman votes yes. Mrs. DeFlorio.
Yes.
Mrs. DeFlorio votes yes. Mr. Dondorfer. Mr. Dondorfer votes yes. Mr. Frazier. Mr. Frazier votes yes. Ms. Hasman. Ms. Hasman votes yes. Ms. Hugh Smith. Ms. Hugh Smith votes yes. Mr. Johns. Mr. Johns votes yes. Mr. Keller. Mr. Keller votes yes. Mr. Long. Mr. Long votes yes. Mr. Mafucci. Mr. Mafucci votes yes. Mr. McCabe. McCabe votes no. Ms. McIntyre. Ms. McIntyre votes yes. Mr. Milne. Mr. Milne votes yes. Mr. Morris. Morris votes yes. Mr. Sinclair. Mr. Sinclair votes yes. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith votes yes. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons votes yes. President Roman.
Yes.
President Roman votes yes. 26-3, resolution passes. Item number 18, referral 24-0063, amending 2024-2029 capital improvement program to add a project entitled Acquire, Replace, Rescue Firefighting Safety Vehicle, R3, at the Frederick Douglass Greater Rochester International Airport and authorizing contract with CNS Engineers for design services for project.
Moved by legislator Hugh Smith, seconded by legislator Mafucci. Is there any discussion? Yes. Legislator McCain.
Thank you. I'd like to explain my vote. Everywhere in this county, fire departments design fire trucks. The members of those departments, whether they're employees or volunteer members, enjoy designing their fire trucks. They do it on their own time. They do it for the benefit of their department, and it's something that they take pride in. Never before have I seen anywhere where an outside vendor is being paid to design a fire apparatus. I've spent 35 years in the fire service in various regions in the state, and I've never seen anything like this. We designed multiple trucks at the county level for hazmat, for other things, and at no point have we used an outside vendor to design those. Those agencies design their trucks. The sheriff's department designs their command post vehicle, et cetera, for their needs at their department, and they meet all the qualifications, whether it's NFPA or the Aviation Administration. So those designs are done, and I'll be voting no on this. I think our people at the airport, our firefighters at the airport, could design the fire truck that they choose, and I think it's important that they do so. So I'll be voting no on this.
Thank you. Legislator Milne, and then.
And I realize that this vote 18 and 19 are together, so please bear with me. This project and truck replacement is critical for not only the need to upgrade equipment at the Monroe County Airport Fire Department, but moreover will enhance the response and thus protection of travelers coming to Monroe County for business, to visit family, see incredible programs like the CGI Jazz Festival, or simply to come home. This critical project is important to move forward. However, like my fellow legislator McCabe, I have never seen a fire department have to use an outside source to the tune of $28,300, which is proposed for CNS engineers to review the vehicle specifications. And I think that that is some money that should be spent internally. And I would hope, at least in future, we will be able to bring this type of review in-house. So I will vote no for this particular item and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Legislator Banks.
Through you, Madam President, to the administration, can you please share with the legislature the purpose of the vendor to support and assist this particular motion?
Through the president, I'd be happy to. Andy Moore, Director of Aviation for the county. This vendor was selected because they have experience in putting together specifications for these types of ARF vehicles. The one thing that they provide is a level of expertise with what the FAA requires, what the FAA has as far as their guidelines, advisory circulars from the FAA. All these types of information bulletins that this engineering firm would review on a daily basis as they put together proposals for other airports across the country, that internal staff at the airport nor particular firefighters would have an expertise on. So they are acting as kind of the guidance in putting together the bid specs and then ultimately putting together the bid based on FAA requirements, and then following that process to fruition and making sure that when a bid comes in from the 4 or 5 firefighting vehicle vendors across the country, that it meets the specifications that the FAA requires as the FAA funds this particular project. Thank you.
Follow up, please, Madam President. Can you describe how this vendor works directly with our brave employees and firefighters at the airport, how they collect information and develop the proposed purchase, if you will, using input from our employees? Is that part of their process?
Through the president, absolutely it is. They will be working not only with airport staff, but also with the fire chief of the airport fire department, who will get input from the captains at the fire department, particularly the training captain at the fire department, but also working with the FAA employees, the engineers at the airport district office in New York City to make sure that the requirements in the bid specs that go out for public bidding are in accordance to FAA guidelines and requirements, and to ensure that the fire truck is built to those specifications as required by the FAA as the FAA funds this particular project.
I yield the floor. Thank you.
Legislator Mafucci.
Thank Airport Director Moore for his very professional response.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Mr. Udelson. Mr. Udelson votes yes. Mr. Brew. Mr. Brew votes yes. Ms. Barnhart. Ms. Barnhart votes yes. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy votes yes. Mr. Baines. Mr. Baines votes yes. Mr. Blankley. Mr. Blankley votes yes. Ms. Bonnick. Ms. Bonnick votes yes. Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess votes yes. Mr. Chardy. Mr. Chardy votes no. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby votes yes. Mr. Cruz.
Yes.
Mr. Cruz votes yes. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman votes yes. Mrs. DeFlorio.
Yes.
Mrs. DeFlorio votes yes. Mr. Dondorfer. Mr. Dondorfer votes yes. Mr. Frazier. Mr. Frazier votes yes. Ms. Hasman. Ms. Hasman votes yes. Ms. Hugh Smith. Ms. Hugh Smith votes yes. Mr. Johns. Johns votes yes. Mr. Keller. Keller votes yes. Mr. Long. Mr. Long votes yes. Mr. Mafucci. Mr. Mafucci votes yes. Mr. McCabe. McCabe votes no. Ms. McIntyre. Ms. McIntyre votes yes. Mr. Milne. Mr. Milne votes no. Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris votes yes. Mr. Sinclair. Mr. Sinclair votes yes. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith votes yes. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons votes no. President Roman.
Yes.
President Roman votes yes. 25-4. Resolution passes. Item number 40. Referral 24-0083, authorizing a lease agreement with Bella Events Group for 2024 Rochester Pride Festival.
Moved by legislator Baines, second by legislator Mafucci. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Roll call vote.
Mr. Udelson. Mr. Udelson votes yes. Mr. Brew. Mr. Brew votes no. Ms. Barnhart. Ms. Barnhart votes yes. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy votes yes. Mr. Baines. Mr. Baines votes yes. Mr. Blankley. Mr. Blankley votes yes. Ms. Bonnick. Bonnick votes yes. Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess votes yes. Mr. Chardy. Mr. Chardy votes yes. Mr. Colby. Colby votes yes. Mr. Cruz.
Yes.
Mr. Cruz votes yes. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman votes yes. Mrs. DeFlorio.
Yes.
Mrs. DeFlorio votes yes. Mr. Dondorfer. Mr. Dondorfer votes yes. Mr. Frazier. Mr. Frazier votes yes. Ms. Hasman. Ms. Hasman votes yes. Ms. Hugh Smith. Ms. Hugh Smith votes yes. Mr. Johns. Johns votes yes. Mr. Keller. Mr. Keller votes yes. Mr. Long. Mr. Long votes yes. Mr. Mafucci. Mr. Mafucci votes yes. Mr. McCabe. Mr. McCabe votes no. Ms. McIntyre. Ms. McIntyre votes no. Mr. Milne. Mr. Milne votes yes. Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris votes no. Mr. Sinclair. Mr. Sinclair votes no. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith votes yes. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons votes yes. President Roman.
Yes.
President Roman votes yes. 24-5. Resolution passes. Item number 42, referral 24-0085, confirming appointments to the 911 Operating Practices Board Action for a Better Community Board, Agriculture and Farmland Protection Board, Audit Committee, Council of Governments, County Fire Advisory Board, County of Monroe Industrial Development Agency, Emergency Medical Services Advisory Board, Fishery Advisory Board, Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council, Jury Board, Monroe Community Hospital Board, Monroe County Planning Board, Monroe County Soil and Water Conservation District.
Moved by legislator Udelson, seconded by legislator Burgess. Is there any discussion? Yes. Ask questions.
Helping promote assignments. Most cases, the experience of those who have been marginalized has not changed enough. As a result, appointments such as these tonight made to the committee assignments of Monroe County Legislature appear cosmetic, allowing the county to appear as though they're doing something about inequities in our community, not resulting in much noticeable change. This is apparent in hiring practices at the Water Authority. Additionally, I have serious concerns regarding COMITA, which continues to reflect the lack of diversity necessary on such considerable decisions that directly, as well as distribution of funds, which should always be equitable to all legislative districts, not just suburban districts. Furthermore, the burden of increasing the awareness of these marginalized communities face continue to fall on the shoulders of the excluded, primarily Black and Brown, rather than placing the onus on those in power to recognize their privilege and drive change. As a duly elected woman of color, representative of a district that's primarily African American, the number of people in their late 20s to early 40s is extremely large, while the number of young adults is extremely large. There are also extremely large number of single parents and an extremely small percent of children under 18 living in 14605 compared to other areas in the county. According to the latest U.S. Families, children of color are no less important than other children or families in Monroe County. Disparity of representation forces me to vote no on these committee assignments, and must do better.
Any other discussion? Before I vote, I just want to say thank you to all the legislators who are filling these current vacancies or continuing their term within these boards through the bylaws based on, the rules of the legislature. I'm proud to put forth one of the most collaborative appointments and look forward to doing so again in the future for this legislature. Any other discussion? All right. With that being said, all in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Thank you. There being no unfinished business. Legislator Udelson. Ninth. Perfect. Thank you.